In this short video, I want to offer blunt and honest advice for individuals who are taking care of or in a relationship with an intelligent adult who is dealing with complex anxiety or OCD, who is not seeking to help themselves, or who is sabotaging your efforts to help them on their behalf. And though this is a huge topic with many unique scenarios, I would like to share with you the approach I would use based on 2 decades of experience as a complex anxiety therapist and from my own recovery from anxiety, OCD, and depression. Now, the first point I'd like to share with you is this. I know for sure that both anxiety and OCD are self-treatable to the degree a person can live effectively with them gently in the background or can overcome them completely, as I did. However, for this to happen, they must become open-minded enough to try new things and to accept change, and then dedicate themselves to a structured process of learning and ERP, whereby they gently expose themselves towards the life they would wish to be living if they were anxiety-free, rather than focusing on their current fears. So that's the first hurdle you face: how to get them to believe that change is possible. Next up, the anxious person must recognize that their recovery will only come from them becoming a new person, not remaining the same person, but without the anxiety. This reason, if we're honest, is that anxiety stems from continuously being a worried and anxious person who thinks and acts in fearful, pessimistic, and doubtful ways. Therefore, it would be common sense for them to spend some time and effort learning how to become a braver person who thinks and acts in more courageous and optimistic ways, so their life may improve. And when I say courageous, I simply mean feeling vulnerable and out of control, yet still taking positive actions towards a better life, rather than trying to control or avoid life. In order for this transition to happen, individuals must engage in a practical journey of self-discovery, which involves transforming their thought processes, learning new ways to perceive the world, acquiring new skills to interact with the world, and letting go of concerns about what others may think of them. They will be required to develop new, more optimistic belief systems, a better recognition of their true underlying personality type, and to discover how to find their voice in the outside world. They may also need to deal with past traumas, develop more self-esteem, and then apply the intense repetition required to retrain and overwrite their brain's old thought patterns whilst desensitizing their body's overdeveloped emotional fear responses. And of course, they'll need to start this journey from the uncomfortable position of fear, exhaustion, doubt, frustration, and anger. And sadly, that's just the way it is. In addition, they are being fed daily fearful news stories about how dangerous the world is and all the bad things that are happening, when there are also many wonderful things happening too. Therefore, a new inner attitude must be developed whereby they are taught how to retrain their unconscious brain to switch towards more optimism and trust from its current default setting of pessimism and doubt. Obviously, for this to happen, the person must somehow recognize that they are responsible for the outcomes of their life, nobody else. So self-responsibility and self-commitment to change are key for their recovery. And though hard, the rewards from transitioning to living a calm, engaging, self-loving and happy life are obviously enormous. Now, of course, what I'm saying here is common sense, but for some reason we've been brainwashed by our health systems to believe that there is not much we can do. Poor us for being born that way, or having a certain chemical imbalance, or being too sensitive, and we must learn to live with those disabilities or medicate ourselves. Well, I don't agree. I believe that in 80% of people with anxiety or OCD, there is nothing deeply wrong with their brains or bodies, except they haven't been taught how to use them effectively and in a favourable manner towards a calm and happy life. I'd say their issues are more a problem of living than a genetic or a chemical one. Think about it. If their brain is running scary thoughts, their body will release the corresponding fearful stress chemicals, and their unconscious mind will adopt more fearful strategies to try and protect them from its perceived dangers out in the real world. So it's likely they'll stay at home, beating themselves up for not getting on with life and entering a cycle that diminishes self-esteem and self-love, thus moving them into biological exhaustion and sometimes depression. To a certain degree, how they are biologically feeling right now is probably quite appropriate for how they are currently thinking, acting, living, and exhausting themselves. And it doesn't matter why or how they were conditioned in childhood to think and act in those fearful, negative, or self-destructive ways. The only sensible question to ask themselves now is, how do I consciously recondition my unconscious into new attitudes, thought processes, and behaviours which will de-stress my body and evoke nicer biological responses within me? Now, as I said in the beginning, this is going to be a blunt message and probably one that most anxious people don't want to hear. However, if they have a modicum of intelligence, it's one that they really ought to at least listen to and explore to see if what I'm saying is true. And I know, because I did it, that it is possible to change your inner chemistry. It is possible to change your thought patterns. It is possible to develop more self-esteem, and it is possible to become a new person. Therefore, if someone you love is deeply caught up in cycles of anxiety, fear, procrastination, exhaustion, or obsessions, they need to be somehow given the message that there is hope, and that with the right guidance, it is possible to change. To what degree? Well, who knows until they try. And who might they become? Well, who knows until they try. So if they're not willing to help themselves, somehow you need to help them to explore my methods rather than letting them doubtfully shoot them down without even trying. There is much they can do to help themselves. Yes, it will be hard, but surely remaining stuck and anxious is also hard, just more familiar. And it's my experience, the best change happens when the anxious person desires to change and takes the responsibility of helping themselves to change. And this is why I developed the Calmness in Mind, Anxiety and OCD recovery process based on my own recovery and 20 years of research. This online video course cleverly guides the individual to understand what is happening to them, how to calm themselves down, how to see life differently, and how to recognize who they truly are, how to retrain their brain and body, and finally, how to decide who they wish to become and what they wish to do with their lives. All in a practical step-by-step process, and there is no other course like this on the market. It's a tried and tested process which has helped thousands of people, and it works well if the person applies themselves and rises above their old self-sabotaging behaviors. So let me end this video with some tips that might help you to help them to help themselves. However, in truth, your options are quite limited, though I believe you should try them all. So if they refuse to follow a sensible program of change, your first tactic is to trade your time for their learning. Let me give you an example. If someone is seeking reassurance, which I think should be avoided as it can create codependency and hinder their ability to validate themselves and make decisions, you might say, well, let's watch that video together to see how you might handle this situation more effectively. Or if they are dependent on you for money, help traveling, or they want you to behave in certain ways to not upset them, once again, you can trade their time to watch some videos in return for your actions to support them, thus forcing them to take on more responsibility. If they belligerently won't help themselves by following the course, it may be prudent for you to follow the program, so at least you can see what they should be doing and so may be able to influence them in new ways. And often, as you change to become more calm, courageous, optimistic, and emotionally strong, you become a role model showing them that change is possible, and this can be very motivational. And finally, as this is a blunt and honest video, if the anxious person refuses to help themselves, might you ask yourself, am I in the wrong relationship? Or you may be forced to accept that you have decided to remain the carer or the supporter of this person. Either way, my course and its techniques will give you the strength to move on or the calmness and the tolerance to remain. To help you get their attention, I've made the first 4 videos free, and there are many short snippets of my work on my YouTube channel, so they can see that I come at this work from a very common sense and very practical fashion. The course contains over 60 videos, guided meditations, workbooks, and many blogs about how I overcame my mental health problems. Accessing the course is just £10 per month, which is about $15. So even if you subscribe for a year, it will be less expensive than a single therapy session. So it's amazing value. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share this. And if you know anybody struggling with mental health or self-esteem issues, I will put some helpful links below in the description area. Thank you very much.